From the nation's capital, the Conservative Caucus presents Conservative Roundtable, an in-depth look at today's most important issues.
Welcome to Conservative Roundtable. I'm Howard Phillips, Chairman of the Conservative Caucus, which sponsors this broadcast. My guest for this program is Corey Burnell. Corey is from California, but hopes to be moving to South Carolina. And as we get into the broadcast, we'll be giving you the reasons why he's made that decision. Corey is a graduate of the University of California at Santa Barbara. He is a financial advisor. He has a BA in economics, and he has a master's in business administration. He's married with 2 children. He played baseball in right field for the Santa Barbara team, and he has been a member of the Constitution Party since 2003. Now, Corey, you have a plan to try to persuade a great many people to pick up roots, pack their bags, and move to South Carolina, and you're going to be joining that parade. Tell me about your plan.
Well, thank you, Howard. The name of our plan is ChristianExodus.org, and what we're essentially doing is trying to convince our fellow Christian constitutionalists that the best strategy for reform in this country at this point is for us to concentrate efforts at the local level and elect local officials who will do things similar to what Judge Roy Moore did in Alabama back in 2003. As you'll well remember, the Ten Commandments controversy there, as he stuck up for the state of Alabama and its right to display the Ten Commandments in its judicial building. We believe that the most effective way to return our country to constitutionally limited government is for local governments to refuse to acquiesce to federal tyranny. So we would like to move enough conservative constitutionalists to particular counties in South Carolina that we would be able to get constitutionalists elected to local office, essentially affect change from the ground up rather than the top down.
Now, one problem we have is government education. And as a result of government schools succeeding in dumbing down generations of American children, there are very few people who understand what the Constitution authorizes, what it forbids. Very few have heard of the doctrine of interposition, and even those who have understood it might lack the willingness to stand against the crowd and in office try to impose the doctrine of interposition. How do you find, where do you find people who are constitutionally knowledgeable and morally courageous?
That is the challenge that we're up against, and that's why, really in today's age, we have more opportunity in doing that and finding those like-minded individuals at a far less expense than in the past. Of course, referencing the internet as one very useful tool. But that is the key. You're right. With public school education in this country, the American populace really is the problem. With these issues, they continue to send socialists to Congress. They continue to send people who will routinely violate the U.S. Constitution to Congress and to the White House.
And tragically, most of them are Republicans.
That's right. That's right. We found that to be the case. So we have to get this message of this particular strategy, this project, to folks who already agree with us. Well, what I'm fond of saying is that at ChristianExodus.org, we're not an education organization. We're a project to seek out, find, and move the people whose minds are already made up, who already agree with us.
Well, why would you want to move them to South Carolina?
Well, South Carolina, the general populace agrees with us on particular issues important to Christian conservatives, things like freedom of religious expression, things like the right to life for the unborn. Certainly homosexual marriage now being a very, a tantamount issue. So we have a friendly populace on the issues, and South Carolina is relatively small, both geographically and in the terms of population. So we don't believe we need to move all that many people. And we've selected 2 counties for our first phase, as we have a multi-phase strategy. And in the smaller of those 2 counties, we think we can be effective there if we have 500 activists move there.
500 is seemingly not a great number, but in practice, It can be a tremendously large number. How does one persuade an individual to quit his job, move his family, and start fresh, perhaps already well along in years? I mean, are you aiming at people who are still in college? Are you aiming at people who are retired? And you mentioned the internet. Are you advertising on the internet?
Advertising on the internet we just haven't budgeted for yet, as that can become expensive.
What about putting up blogs?
Absolutely, yeah. We're very well linked. In fact, our blog has a pretty good Google rank. Our website has achieved some pretty decent recognition. So that it's really been amazing how we've been able to do that effectively with very little money invested. But to get back to your point about how do you convince people to move, we need to lay out a case for all the value that there is in this. That even, first of all, if we did achieve our goals, there's significant value in, if we are successful politically, seeing a return to the constitutionally limited government that our founders originally envisioned. You consider that the average American loses 30, 40, 50% of their check to government in some way, shape, or form. That's a huge burden.
But people will say, why me? I'm not going to be able to change things by myself. Perhaps even 500 of us, were there that many, could only have a very limited impact. It's a very fine and unusual person who is able to convince his family, his loved ones, and himself that this is the right thing to do. Tell me about your success story so far.
Yes, we've had 8 households who have moved. What you'll find predominantly is there'll be self-employed individuals, usually, who have that type of freedom. We do have one gentleman who moved his family. He was with a national corporation, and he just transferred. So it's been exciting to watch it happen. It is happening.
What do they know about you and your principles? And what do you know about them and their principles?
Sure.
And how do they find out?
Well, yeah, generally they'll find out by word of mouth or a news article or something like this television show. And then they'll research us on the website. There's really a lot of information on our site about our principles. We have a 23-point position statement where people can really get a handle on where we stand on the positions of the day. In addition, as far as how we know where they stand is on their principles as members, whether they're the type of member we'd like to move, we can only assume that by the time they've read our website, that they must be in wholehearted agreement before they've picked up and moved their family across the country.
Only when you get successful will you be in danger of being infiltrated.
Yeah, that's right. At this point, you're probably right. Right, and that would be the case. You know, we don't disclose which counties we're selecting on our website. We disclose that to our members when they join. But we don't make it really easy for the opposition to
Now, what
organize.
inspired you to adopt this plan?
Well, we knew of the Free State Project, which began in 2001.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, Dr. Jason Sorens out of Yale started that. It's a libertarian project. They now have over 6,700 members last time I checked, and they have moved over 200 members up to New Hampshire at this point, about 3 years into the project now for them. They're having some success getting people locally elected there, and New Hampshire is about 1/3 the size, a little more than 1/3 the size of South Carolina. So in South Carolina, we started a couple years after the Free State Project, and we decided because of the size of the state, we would use a county-by-county strategy. Mm-hmm. So we took their vision and project, we tweaked it a little bit, and of course we have some political principles that differ a little bit from libertarians.
And how have your ideas, your strategies been greeted by people in South Carolina? Has the South Carolina media or any element of it noticed you?
A lot. We have had dozens of articles written about us in South Carolina.
And has that had the effect of causing people to move out of South Carolina?
We do get some emails to that effect from time to time. We get, it's a state of 4.2 million people, so you get responses across the board. But overwhelmingly, we've been really enthused by the locals who have come alongside of us because of the principles we stand for. So, you know, how much of an effect we're going to get there locally is just still to be determined.
Have you encountered Lee Bandy, the veteran political reporter for the South Carolina newspaper?
The state? No, I've not run into Mr.
He's probably
Bandy.
one of the top political reporters in the country.
Okay.
When he writes about you, you've arrived.
Okay, so we'll look for that article.
Now, we're going to have to take a break,
Okay.
But when we come back, I want you to tell us how the people in our audience can make contact with you and what kind of sacrifices they would have to make to team up with your effort. Please stay with us. I'm Howard Phillips. Our guest is Corey Burnell. We'll be back right after these messages. There are many conservative organizations, but the Conservative Caucus is unique in that our standard for evaluating public policy is the Constitution of the United States. Our goal is to advocate policies which conform to what the Constitution stipulates and to oppose those which undermine the Constitution. It's clear that the federal government has only those powers which are provided in the Constitution, which were initially delegated by the states to the federal government or which were subsequently added by amendment. If we adhered to that principle, your taxes would be lower and your liberties would be more secure.
The Conservative Caucus, www.conservativeusa.org or 703-938-9626.
Face the Truth is a production of the Conservative Caucus and is seen twice monthly on the station you are watching. We will be interviewing the movers and shakers of the pro-life movement. We hope to educate and even inspire you about what is being done in our country to protect and to promote the sanctity of life. Please watch us.
Don't miss Face the Truth with Stephen Peruka and Conservative Roundtable with Howard Phillips right here on this station every week.
Here's how you can become a citizen lobbyist and influence how your representatives vote. Write a letter to your congressmen and senators. Speak out on a call-in talk radio program. Write a letter to the editor of your local newspaper and call the Conservative Caucus for more information at 703-938-9626.
Help the Arbor Day Foundation plant more trees across the nation. Plant a tree today for all the world to share.
Go to arborday.org.
There is a better way to have fun with history. Visit americaslibrary.gov. Log on, play around, learn something.
Come on, you're going to tell me that buying one imported towel is going to cost someone their job?
Ever tried shopping for clothes with a 4-year-old? I can't be looking for where the stuff is made.
Since 1980, nearly 500,000 Americans who make apparel and home fashions have lost their jobs, even though the quality of our products is second to none, which makes you wonder if it's foreign competition that's hurting us.
So the shirt's imported. Who's it gonna hurt?
Or if it's us that's hurting us. Buy American, and Americans work.
Welcome back. I'm Howard Phillips. Our guest is Corey Burnell. Corey, you've started Christian Exodus. Tell us how people can become involved with your organization, what membership entails.
Right. Well, of course, membership with our organization, we've made that very simple. It's free because people are committing to something so tremendously large. When joining our organization, we ask for a commitment level from individuals. They can commit to move, and that would be our level 1 commitment. They could commit to move in our first phase. To be more specific, that would be the level 1 commitment.
And for those just joining us, what Corey is talking about is having people move to the state of South Carolina to develop a substantial conservative presence in that state, which can be translated into changes in public policy.
Yes, thank you for adding that. That's right. And then our level 2 members are folks who may not be able to move to one of the first counties we've selected of these first 2, but they agree that they'll be able to move someday. But then there are a number of folks who just simply won't ever be able to move. So we have a level 3 membership for those folks who want to get involved, volunteer locally, help spread the word, and those are our level 3 members. We also have a spot where members can become supporting members if they would like to contribute financially, and then they are able to vote in the organization.
I was glad to learn from you during the break that you're going to make a concerted effort to interest college students.
Absolutely.
Because they have the flexibility to plant roots wherever they choose.
Right. Well, that's right. Demographically, you have really 2 age groups that are mobile. There's the retirees and of course, the college graduates. Those 2 demographic groups are very flexible.
You've got many colleges right in the state of South Carolina, and you could very well recruit many of their undergraduates to be part of your effort. University of South Carolina, College of Charleston.
Clemson is there.
Clemson, the Citadel, etc. I have great respect for Clemson graduates, but I was told that Clemson used to be known as Clem College. Have you heard this?
No, sir, I haven't.
Yeah, but they wanted to enhance its stature, so they added S-O-N. S for chivalry, O for honor, and N for knowledge. That was told me by one of Clemson's rivals, and I'm sure it's apocryphal.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Well, let's say you're able to establish a significant presence in a particular county. What then? What can you do to change the course of public policy? Let's say you control the county council. Let's say you have members of the legislature. What can be done that isn't now being done?
Well, on one of the most important issues to Christian conservatives, the right to life for the unborn, in a county that has an abortion center, really that county council would have a lot of power should the sheriff stand with them in order into protecting life.
So you can close it down.
Shut it down. You know, either tax it into oblivion or just outright shut it down legally and cause a conflict of sorts with federal courts.
What would you do about the presence of homosexuals in the county? Let's say there is a ruling that you have to honor so-called same-sex marriages. What if there is a ruling that you cannot apply civil penalties to practicing sodomites? How would you address that question?
Those when you say rulings, I assume you mean federal court rulings like Lawrence versus Texas. Yeah, or state. Really, they need to be disobeyed. Those rulings are in conflict of two things. One is natural law, God's law, and number 2 would be the right of that local, either the state or the county, to govern itself on that issue, which is, if it's a federal court ruling, would be usurped. There's no authority in the U.S. Constitution for federal courts to address the issue.
What if the state or the federal government sent in so-called law enforcement personnel to challenge the so-called disobedience of the local government? How would you resist?
Well, that'd be the beauty of it, Howard, because, see, there you now have a national story. You now have on the forefront of the political scene a constitutional conflict that has to create a debate, and Americans have to talk about it and figure out who's right. And we know we're right before the law on an issue like that. Particularly.
Would you go to prison or would you resist?
Oh, would I personally? Absolutely. I would have to go to prison for something like that.
What about resistance? In the 1600s and the 1700s, there were every able-bodied man between the age of 16 and 44 was a member of the militia.
Sure.
Required to own a weapon, required to be trained in the use of the weapon. And there have been instances in America's history, such as Shays' Rebellion and others, where local people resisted the proclamations of authority by outside groups. Sometimes they did so by force of arms. Is this something that a local government, in your view, ought to consider?
You know, every individual circumstance would demand a prudent, prudent evaluation of whether you do resist with force of arms. But certainly, in American history, as you've just demonstrated, sometimes it's necessary. That's right.
Well, there's a face bill, access to clinic entrances, prohibiting people from interfering with individuals going into an abortion mill to kill their children. Is that the type of circumstance that would, in your view, require forcible resistance, even to the point of armed resistance?
Well, yeah, but here's the beauty of it at the local level. We can do it with the county council and with the sheriff's office, doing it with color of law, essentially.
But as they did with George Wallace standing in the schoolhouse door, they said our law obviates your law. Our law is superior to your law. The question is which law governs. And Wallace chose to yield. And as you say, it depends on the circumstance. But the question comes down to this: at what point in defense of liberty does one resist with force of arms?
Yeah, well, if you do that at the local level, you've got to be willing to die, because I don't think you're going to see a local county or state ever successfully resist federal intrusion. And
especially with all of the extraordinary weaponry being provided to various agencies of federal, state, and local government to clamp down.
Well,
on
that's
local
right.
resistance.
You can't beat the federal government with force of arms, but that's really not necessarily the goal. The goal here is to create the conflict and demonstrate.
I would say that there are circumstances where strong opposition can lead to a situation where the federal government backs off.
You're right about that, because to what extent is the federal government willing to kill Americans over an issue? And I've made the argument a number of times in discussing Christian exodus that it's unpopular for the federal government. Had Alabama continued to resist in 2003, had Governor Riley stood with Judge Moore there, the federal government was not going to come in and kill Alabamians to take a Ten Commandments monument out of a courthouse.
And of course, Roy Moore is now running against Bob Riley.
And I 100% support him, yes.
And it's an uphill fight because people have short memories and they don't see the connection between Judge Moore's defense of the Ten Commandments on the one hand and his campaign for governor, even though the incumbent governor collaborated in those efforts to deny the right of the people of Alabama to acknowledge God. We have to take a break here. When we come back, we'll have about 2 minutes. And I want you to use that time to summarize your purposes and to let people know exactly how they can involve themselves in your work. Please stay with us. Our guest is Corey Burnell of Christian Exodus. We'll be right back.
When you see the terrible decline in public morality, do you have a suspicion that something's gone wrong in America? Would you like to make a positive difference for freedom and for liberty? Institute on the Constitution is a historical study designed to teach you about the basic core ideas behind the Constitution, the ideas that built America. Call the number on the screen and learn more.
The Institute on the Constitution, 410-768-2280, www.instituteontheconstitution.com.
There are many conservative organizations, but the Conservative Caucus is unique in that our standard for evaluating public policy is the Constitution of the United States. Our goal is to advocate policies which conform to what the Constitution stipulates and to oppose those which undermine the Constitution. It's clear that the federal government has only those powers which are provided in the Constitution, which were initially delegated by the states to the federal government or which were subsequently added by amendment. If we adhered to that principle, your taxes would be lower and your liberties would be more secure.
The Conservative Caucus, www.conservativeusa.org or 703-938-9626.
One of the reasons lions roar is to warn threatening bachelor males from other prides to stay away from their young. Here, a lion cub gets a lesson in proper roaring from its father. Teaching this behavior is not just crucial to the pride, but also to the survival of the species. Just a reminder how important it is for fathers to spend time with their children.
Welcome back. I'm Howard Phillips, chairman of the Conservative Caucus, which sponsors this broadcast. If you're interested in the kinds of issues we discuss on Conservative Roundtable, please check out our website, www.conservativeusa.org, or my blog, howardphillips.com, or write to us at 450 Maple Avenue East, Vienna, Virginia, 22180. Our guest has been Corey Burnell, the founder and leader of Operation Exodus.
Christian Exodus. Operation Christian Exodus.
Christian Exodus, I'm sorry. Tell us how people can contact you.
Well, of course, our website's out there. It's www.christianexodus.org. Exodus spelled like the book of the Bible. And our toll-free number is 877-727-3578. So for those of you who don't have web access, we'll get an information packet out to you if you'll call that toll-free number. We can also be emailed at info@christianexodus.org.
In the minute remaining, tell us what you hope to achieve. You're 29 years old, you have a young family, a wife and 2 children, you have to earn a living, you've got an excellent education behind you, you have an MBA and a BA in economics. What are you trying to accomplish with Christian Exodus?
You know, really simply, Howard, we're trying to get back to the root of American government, which is allowing states to govern themselves on domestic issues that are reserved to them under the 10th Amendment. So in moving people to South Carolina, and our family is laying the groundwork to move ourselves, we hope to accomplish a return to where people can live in a community where they will see Christmas manger scenes in their schools, should they want to.
And the schools won't be government schools.
We sure hope not. We're going to do our best to get rid of all, that type of nonsense and privatize education.
Corey, thank you for coming here at your own expense all the way from California.
Yes, sir.
And see you on the next edition of Conservative Roundtable.